always want to be able to wake up and tell somebody to kiss my ass. And when you depend on that person's money, you can't do that. You got to eat shit sometimes. And I ain't in the mood for eating shit. I'm always in the mood to tell somebody to kiss my ass, though. Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com for these Mick shades. I think we got one more pair left. Why don't you go on over there and check it out? And if you have not already joined this book club, please hit the Patreon link below in the description bar and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Prince Harry. Oh, I think we got less than 5 videos left. Granny formally approved the merge in March 2018 by royal decree. The decree about the wedding coincided uncannily with the airing of Meg's farewell season of Suits, in which her character, Rachel, was also preparing to get married. Art and life imitating each other. So anyway, before we go further, right quick, I know you're like, Nay, I ain't in the mood for your bullshit today. I had a cup of coffee, okay, and I got on my Whitney Houston shirt today. You never know what you're going to get. Let me ask you ladies this, or men, whoever. If your partner offered you an opportunity to quit your job and you are not having any income coming in, your only job is to be there for your partner, would you accept that job? Me, myself, if it wasn't for the fact that I had money coming in through YouTube, even though people don't believe YouTube is a real job, I work hard as shit. This is the hardest that I have ever worked in my life. And I've worked for a hospital before. Well, hospitals, right? Anybody that worked for a hospital, whatever your position is, you know you round there busting your ass, okay? And if you try and take a day off, them niggas gonna crucify you. Now, when I lived in the dream world, I probably thought that. But as a grown woman with experiences, there is no way that I can rely solely on my partner. And some people do. Some people live off of, their partner. They can do it. Shouts to la vista to them. Me, myself, I can't do it. Only because I always want to be able to wake up and tell somebody to kiss my ass. And when you depend on that person's money, you can't do that. You got to eat shit sometimes. And I ain't in the mood for eating shit. I'm always in the mood to tell somebody to kiss my ass, though. I showed up to my stag ready party to laugh, to have a good time, to get clear of all this stress. And yet I also feared that I got too clear, got too drunk and passed out. Willie and his mates would hold me down and shave me. In fact, Willie told me explicitly, in all seriousness, that this was his plan. So while having fun, I was also at all times keeping my older brother in sight. The stag was at a friend's house in a Hampshire countryside, not on the South Coast or in Canada or in Africa, all of which were reported as its location. Aside from my older brother, 15 mates were in attendance. The host kitted out his indoor tennis court with various boy toys, giant boxing gloves, bows and arrows, a mechanical bull. What? Was it a bitch on the bull? We painted our faces and roughhoused like idiots. Great fun. No bitches? Even if it was, he ain't gonna say it here. That's part of the reason why people upset with this book. There ain't no tea. I don't know why people mad. Because they like Harry didn't expose the royal family. Where? Where in this book? Where? I don't see it. I don't see no parts or nothing where he didn't expose the royal family's business. When everyone was bored of firing rifles, they dressed me as a giant yellow feathered chicken and sent me downrange to shoot fireworks at me. All right, I offered to do it. Whoever comes closest wins. I flashed back to those long ago weekends in Norfolk, dodging fireworks with Hugh and Emil's boys. I wondered if Willie did too. How had we drifted so far from the closeness of those days? You niggas grew up. You grew up, Harry? Oh my God, grown men, do men ever grow up? That's not cool. That is not safe, Harry. Girl, suppose your ass would have caught on fire, dumbass. I know Megan was like, ooh, I married a dumb. Anyway, he ain't telling us nothing about no bitches. Nothing. You could have put that in there, Harry. Though the press was mostly laying off Meg, mostly staying focused on the approaching wedding, the harm was already done. After 18 months of trashing her, they'd riled up all the trolls who were now crawling out of their cellar lairs. Ever since we'd acknowledged that we were a couple, we'd been flooded with racist taunts and death threats on social media. But now the official threat level used by palace security to allocate personnel and guns had reached new heights. In pre-wedding conversations with police, we learned that we'd become the prized target for terrorists and extremists. Because he want to marry a black bitch? Yeah, Meg good. She from Compton. She a gangster, boo. Meg had spent months trying to soothe her father. There was always something new that he'd read about himself, something derogatory he'd taken to heart. His pride was constantly wounded. Every day there was another humiliating photo in the papers. Thomas Markle buying a new toilet. Thomas Markle buying a six-pack. Thomas Markle with his belly hanging over his belt. We understood. Meg told him we knew how he felt. The press, the paparazzis, they were awful. Impossible to totally ignore what's written, she acknowledged. But please do try to ignore them in person. Ignore anyone who approaches Daddy. Be on guard against anyone who pretends to be your best friend. He seemed to be listening. He started to sound as if he was in a better place mentally. Then the Saturday before the wedding, we got a call. We've got a problem. Headlines read, Meg Markle's father, a con artist, staged candid photos for money. A week before the wedding, this now became the story. Though the photos had been taken weeks before, they'd been held in reserve until the most devastating possible moment. Soon after the story broke, Thomas Markle sent us a text. I'm so ashamed. We phoned him and texted him and phoned again. We're not angry. Please pick up. He didn't answer. Then we heard along with the rest of the world that he'd apparently had a heart attack and wasn't coming to the wedding. Damn. I stood at the altar, smoothed the front of my household cavalry uniform, watched Meg floating towards me. Y'all, let me tell you something. When I say that the fashions was giving at that motherfucking wedding, when I tell you them bitches was giving. the Prince Harry and the Meghan Markle wedding like it was the Princess Diana and Prince Charles wedding. I did. I was so enthralled. It was freaking beautiful. And y'all, a little secret about me. I don't know what it is, but it's something about a wedding that takes me down. I lose it emotionally. It's something about seeing the wife or the wife to be coming down the aisle with that veil over her, and watching the man receive the woman that he is giving his last name to. Oh my goodness, it does something to me. I'm crying like I'm the maid of honor and I know I fucked the groom the night before. That's how emotional I am. I stood at the altar, smoothed the front of my household cavalry uniform, watched Meg floating towards me. I'd worked hard to choose the right music for the procession, and ultimately I landed on Handel's Eternal Source of Light. Now, as the soloist voice rang out above our heads, I thought I'd chosen well. Indeed, as Meg came nearer and nearer, I was giving thanks for all my choices. Amazing that I could even hear the music over the sound of my own heartbeat as Meg stepped up, took my hand. Our first tentative message on Instagram, our first meeting at Soho House, our first trip to Botswana, our first excited exchanges after my phone went into the river, our first roast chicken, our first flights back and forth across the Atlantic, the first time I told her I loved her. Hearing her say it back, I shot a glance at Pa, who'd walked Meg down the last part of the aisle. Not her father, but special just the same. And she was moved. It didn't make up for her father's behavior, for how the press had used him, but it very much helped. The Archbishop reached the official part, spoke the few words that made us the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, titles bestowed by Granny, and he joined us until death parted us, though he'd already done similar days earlier in our garden, a small ceremony, just the two of us. I'm lost about this part right here because, like, why did they do it before? Did you bitches trick me? I don't understand. Is that something that's customary? Did you bitches trick me? The fact that they had an informal wedding first, and then they did the shindig for the public. I'm lost. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they was scared that something would go wrong at the wedding. I don't know. But I ain't mad at them. And neither should nobody else. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, titles bestowed by Granny, and he joined us until death parted us, though he'd already done similar days earlier in our garden, a small ceremony with only 2 witnesses. Unofficial, non-binding, except in souls. Okay, so it wasn't even official. We were grateful for every person in and around St. George's and watching on TV, but our love began in private, and being public had been mostly pain. So we wanted the first consecration of our love, the first vows, to be private as well. Okay, I get it. Magical as the formal ceremony was, we'd come to feel slightly frightened of crowds. Okay. Our honeymoon was a closely guarded secret.